The other day, a woman commented on my video and she disagreed with me, saying women want their cake and to eat it too. And I just think that's a really weird phrase in general. But, like, of course, if I took the trouble to get a cake or make a cake, I want to eat it. That seems really basic. But it stuck with me because it really reminded me how much we as women get told that wanting things is the problem. And I don't think that's true. I think a lot of us are walking around in lives where we feel like we're drowning, we don't feel like we're doing okay, and then we're told that we want too much. Then we try and convince ourselves that it's fine, this is normal. And that's where I was at before I left America. I have 5 kids, I was taking care of them. We have special needs in the mix. I was just working so hard and not feeling okay in my life. I was completely maxed out all the time. And I had learned somewhere along the way, wanting to enjoy my life was asking for too much. And I just don't believe that anymore. Wanting to feel alive in your life isn't asking too much. It's the bare minimum. Feeling alive in your very own life is the bare minimum. If we have the gift of being alive, the privilege of being alive, the very least that we are called to do with it is to try and figure out what makes us feel alive and then do that. My coach, Glow, just said, moving abroad is one of the greatest acts of self-love, especially for Black women. And if you're a Black woman here, I am cheering you on. You deserve all the good things. But that concept really hit me because that's what moving abroad was for me. It was an act of self-love because I didn't want to neglect my dreams anymore. I had a 20-year dream to move abroad, and I felt like I was drowning in the States. So moving abroad for me was building a life where I didn't feel like I was drowning anymore. And doing that has healed me in so many ways, and that is what this series is going to be about. There are 44 days left in my 44th year, and I wanted to cover the ways that moving abroad has healed me. So in case you're at the same place that I was at 8 years ago, drowning in America and wondering if something was wrong with you, wondering how you could make it feel better, and desperately wanting relief, but not sure if that's even possible, I'm doing this series to tell you that it's possible. So we need to talk about what that woman did to me in my comment section, because it was really familiar to me after more than a decade in high control church environments. And it was actually a red flag two-parter. And so I want you to recognize the red flags of coercive control and high control environments, because nobody deserves that. And that kind of environment, whether it's church or an organization or a political philosophy or a marriage, you don't deserve to have somebody or some system trying to control you through coercive control. Red flags. So because I'm a nerd about this and because I've lived through it, I like to talk about that here. And so we're just going to have a little side note about what the 2 red flags were in the comment that that woman made. First of all, I was talking about how so many women are in the situation right now where they want to move abroad. Studies have shown that there's a huge percentage of women between the ages of 15 and 44 who want to leave America. But there's a lot of women right now who are in this tricky situation where you want to go, but your husband or your partner doesn't want to go. And that's what I was talking about in that video. You can see the video here. So in addition to telling me that women want their cake and they want to eat it too, she also declared, this is why marriages fall apart. Because women have the audacity to want things. And that her husband is the head of their household and she follows his lead, so she would never leave him to move abroad. Now, I had sort of a sticky title about are you going to have to leave your husband if you want to move abroad? My whole point of the video, you can watch it, was that I don't want you to have to leave your husband. So you need to be having some conversations. So the thing about these high control red flags is they are not creative. And the ones that came up for me as I was reading this were, number one, in a lot of high control environments, especially religious ones, the women are actually we're encouraged to police the other women. It's like the men weren't the ones policing me and policing my actions. The men were teaching the women to teach the other women all these rules. The other day I was just thinking about the verse where Jesus says, my yoke is light, burden is light. The church gets that wrong in a lot of ways, but especially in my experience in the white evangelical church in America, women are being burdened, and the yoke is heavy. It's heavy. And women are policing one another, and I did it too. And I have so many regrets. So anyway, this woman came in my comment section policing the other women in my comment section and me. That's something that's a high control red flag. The other thing is something called a thought terminating cliche. So a thought terminating cliche happens when it's this phrase that gets used all the time, and it's meant to shut down discourse. It's meant to shut down critical thinking. Can you guess what the thought terminating cliche was in this comment? It was, women want their cake and want to eat it too. There are other thought terminating cliches like, everything happens for a reason, or God is good all the time. And honestly, I can believe that there's some truth to those statements. I believe, really, actually, I do believe God is good all the time, consistently. But usually thought terminating cliches are used to stop critical thinking and to stop somebody from bringing up problematic things. They are used to oversimplify complex realities like grief, like death, like how does your marriage work? And they're slapped on a situation, and instead of wrestling through the realities of the difficulties of the situation, thought terminating cliches are meant to stop. And so it's not really about whether the thing is even true or not. It's about, here's a thing people say when they're uncomfortable with the difficulty of what's being brought up in a situation. So I have a story about where I was at early in our marriage. I got married quite young. I was 22. And I quit my master's degree. That's a story for tomorrow, or maybe the next day. So join me for that story. My church encouraged me to quit my free master's degree. Anyways, I was there, a young mom. I had my first baby at age 24. So at this point, I would have been 26 because I had two babies, an almost 2-year-old and a 3-month-old. And we went on our first family vacation that wasn't to visit relatives, because that's not a vacation. And we went to one of my favorite national parks, Zion National Park, and I felt alive for the first time in a really long time. And here's what demonstrates to me the mental space that I had arrived in after being in a controlling church system. I was there and my spirit was alive and I felt alive. And for the first time in a really long time, like, I just experienced a lot of joy. I love the Southwest. I love Zion National Park. I was experiencing an immediate shift from the change of scenery, seeing some beautiful things. It was feeding my soul. And what I asked my husband at the time, because we didn't really take a lot of family vacations, that was the first one, and we felt like we couldn't afford a lot of things. And so I was like, can we please do this just like every 3 years? Maybe we could take a family vacation every 3 years, please. So essentially, really what I was asking, because I love travel. I wasn't admitting it to myself at the time, but I love travel. Travel makes me feel alive. Change of scenery, fresh perspective. Realizing that was actually what brought about us downsizing so that we had more money to travel internationally. And then eventually that led to us moving abroad, because I felt so alive when I exited America. But back to that young 26-year-old mom of two, I really believed I just needed to feel alive like once every 3 years. Then I was going to make it. Like, what? That's wild. I had come to believe that it was so okay to not want things, to not want my own happiness, to sacrifice my own happiness for everyone else and all of my roles and serving in church. And I thought that my calling was to only feel alive once every 3 years. That's where I was at. And I think a lot of us women do this. We have learned to live with very little happiness. We have learned to deprioritize our own joy. We have learned that wanting too much is not really safe and not really okay, and people will be mean about it if we want too much. And that's a real shame, because this is your life. This is my life. And it's okay to want to feel alive in our very own lives. Indeed, it is the bare minimum. So I hope you stick around with me in these last 44 days of me being 44. I hope I can inspire you to just find one little thing that makes you happy to be alive. It doesn't have to cost money. It can be looking at some plants. It can be taking a deep breath. It can be looking at the sky. It can be noticing beauty. There's so many ways to feel alive, and they are worth doing. I'm Andy, and I left America in 2019 with my husband and 5 kids. Now I live in Portugal, and I help Americans relocate to Europe. If you are ready to explore your options, you can look in my video description about the services that I offer. I hope that you will hang in with me through this series, because I want you to feel more alive. I want you to prioritize that. I fully believe that not only will you benefit from loving yourself well, but everyone that you love will benefit if you feel alive. That has certainly been the case in my life. And I just want to see more women come alive again. See you tomorrow.